if you can tell me.
I really couldn't tell you what's going on with Enron. The only thing I can tell you about Enron is that certain people have certain assets in certain places, and they're really not disclosing where their assets at to protect their assets.
Now that's incredible. No one in the media is really talking about where were the assets transferred years before they decided to blow this thing out. It's like, oh, they're all gone, run on the bank. Here it is, again, out of the mouths of babes. He knows exactly what he's talking about. You're on target. I knew we'd get the exact key focused answer we could never get from anybody else.
You got to find the actual employees that was really working here to find out where the target is.
The population thinks that Enron is about a company that went belly up. It was a run on the bank. Couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is it's a giant CIA globalist money laundering operation that I and others were talking about years ago. It's a Ponzi scheme. They take your pension funds, your investment, they buy up power companies, pipelines, you name it, consolidate it, transfer it to other real companies that their interests control. Then they blow out the entire company, have some stage-managed theatrical event whitewashes in Congress, and you buy it. Don't buy it for a single solitary second, because more economic crises are coming. This is how the scam is pulled. Just like 1929 America, I assure you, the stock market is not safe.
I mean, you can buy anything with assets. You can buy anything in H Town.
Exactly, real tangible stuff. They've been transferring, and then they blew the dummy scheme out after the last old lady invested money in it. The stockbroker said it's the best. CNN says it, and you can trust them. They care when you're.
You can't trust CNN.
I mean, really, it's wrong to even speak out against this CIA money laundering operation.
The neighborhood I grew up in, Boyle Heights in East LA and Los Angeles, police weren't necessarily our friends. I think the experiences we had growing up, that they weren't always there to necessarily help you first. You know, there were situations you'd find yourself in that just seemed unfair. I think that, you know, it has a lot to do with money and the perception that gives people. As people with money are less likely to be aggressive physically than poor people, and I think that stereotype is kind of carried out in a lot of the way.
Well, I would add to that, though, because I've interviewed a lot of police. The establishment also has said that people that fit the stereotype of being poor or disadvantaged are easier to abuse, and then there aren't lawsuits and they don't get in trouble.
Sure. I mean, the legal system, it costs a lot of money to represent yourself. Money does make a difference.
And yes, my friends, there really is an Illuminati. There really are 13 families. They own the big banks, print the money, and they have stated publicly that they plan to get all of us, that's 95 to 80% of us, out of the way to engineer a servant class and to totally take control of the evolutionary development of the human species.
Well, I'm not sure I believe in what you're saying there, Alex. It seems a little far-fetched to me.
All one has to do is investigate FEMA, read the founding documents. It's been around since 1933, though they gave it the name in 1979. And I've got Senate hearings on tape where they talk about the concentration camps that FEMA is involved in constructing and maintaining. In fact, the agencies that were merged to create FEMA were the agencies that actually kept the Japanese Americans during World War II in internment camps. And FEMA's already activated. 4 days after September 11th, President Bush activated 500 dormant clauses, activating all of the FEMA powers. FEMA can take over every radio, television station, every transmission, satellite uplink since '96.
I don't think that FEMA would ever have the power to impose any kind of martial law. That's only can be authorized by an act of Congress. And so I don't really see how the transfer of power would happen unless you're talking about an actual military takeover through the NSC.
Go read the executive orders on FEMA.
How would it happen?
Look, it's already happening. The bunkers are in command right now.
Get out of here.
Look, it's incremental.
Let me tell you something. I think the biggest problem in this country is not FEMA. I think it's people's ignorance of their own government and the lack of civics.
I agree. Yeah, people, I agree with it. Well, look, it's not FEMA, it's who runs FEMA. It's the forces behind this power.
They can use any kind of government job to mess with people's lives. The government can use the IRS to destroy you.
Exactly.
They can use the military.
It's just one more
CIA.
tool in their box. He's on target. I'm in agreement. I agree. Go read the executive orders.
Dude, we may be strung out on watching sitcoms and Wheel of Fortune and drinking beer, but the American people would get their act together and
kick
some ass.
They are.
If the government
Liberals
tries to do
and
that.
conservatives are coming together like I've never seen them come together, because people are worried about this. And more of what Congress does, more and more of the checks and balances are being removed in the name of dealing with the crisis. Now, I want the Speaker of the House and Leader of the Senate to be involved in the continuity of government program. They've gone public. They were very upset about it. But we got a problem here when the Speaker of the House, a Republican, and the Leader of the Senate, a Democrat, are both.
We keep talking about like how FEMA is going to take over the government and stuff. I'm just wondering exactly how will they do that? You haven't quite explained that yet.
Again, it's by incrementalism. They're not going to announce they're taking over. Incrementally, they've been doing it, and by using disasters, especially terrorist attacks, it would be quite easy to expand the power to condition the people to accept that level of tyranny. So it's through crises, through problem, reaction, solution, that we would see an expanded takeover.
But how? How are they going to do it?
Well, it's a Richter scale of martial law, of tyranny. I'd say we're at about 5 or 6 right now, and the mercury's rising.
Again, Ashcroft, you're talking about taking away civil liberties bit by little bit by little bit, and I think a lot of my Democratic friends are a bit too hysterical about what's gone down. But
well, again, I'm not a Democrat, but
I see no evidence of any of this. I see no evidence of any of that.
Of what?
Yeah, what evidence is
okay.
I mean,
USA Patriot Act.
Now a threat overseas could end up being a threat to the homeland. And in order to protect the homeland, these good people have got to be able to share information. Those who criticize the Patriot Act must listen to those folks on the front line of defending America. The Patriot Act defends our liberty, is what it does, under the Constitution of the United States.
They'll swear up and down a bill is going to give you more freedom, and it's actually giving you a lot less. They'll have a bill that's supposed to give you more privacy, and what they're doing is they're turning over your information to the government.
In the Patriot Act, Section 802 says that all crimes are an act of terrorism, and now it's in the news. They're using it to go after strip bar owners, county commissioners who might have taken a payoff for zoning rules, zit-faced kids who were found with a bag of marijuana. They're charging thousands of people under the Patriot Act that have no connection in any way to acts of terrorism. They can talk all day about how the Patriot Act is for evil Arab terrorists. They're going to kill us any minute if we don't submit to the nice men in black ski masks. But we've all seen evidence. Mike Wallace calmly argues with somebody who's complaining about his limo driver double parked, and he's savagely arrested by the taxi police. We've got a woman in D.C. walking on to a subway station, and the police tell her, hey, you can't eat a candy bar on the subway. She says, okay, pops into her mouth. They arrest her and say that she was chewing aggressively. This was actually in the Associated Press. Right here in Austin, Texas, this Pakistani guy with no criminal record, his family lives here in Austin, came to town. He videotaped the Capitol and the governor's mansion, and it was a national alert, on Fox. It's all over. The Pakistanis are videotaping. Well, every time I'm a tourist visiting family, I videotape things. It turned out the guy wasn't a threat. But this is used to boost the terror alert and to scare everybody. So we have the precedent being set. You eat a candy bar wrong. You argue with the taxi police about where you're parked, you get arrested. All of this. What does this have to do with America and freedom? Bottom line, look at the climate around you. We're all being treated like slaves by those who, in truth, are the terrorists. You see, that's the common sense. Who stands to gain from this threat? Who stands to gain from the threat of terrorism? The military-industrial complex.
That Congress, a few weeks ago, before it left on recess, by a 3-to-1 margin, passed an amendment that effectively struck down the sneak and peek section of the bill, which gives government the right to go into somebody's house without a warrant, without announcing, in effect, that you're doing a search, which, according to our Bill of Rights, people have to be notified. And so I'm moving forward to strike down all those sections which effectively knock out the Bill of Rights. We're going to reclaim the Bill of Rights by canceling the Patriot Act.
Key provisions of the Patriot Act are set to expire next year. The terrorist threat.
Let me tell you something. These people have said, Rand Corporation and others have said, the entire economy will be prisons, police in black ski masks, a Nazi Germany-like nightmare. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up to talk about it, to read what's in Patriot Act 1 and 2, to see what Homeland Security does, Victory Act 1 and 2. We have got to get the word out now. We have got to warn everybody, because this military-industrial complex and their PNAC and their NORTHCOM plans state that they will carry out the terror, that they will engineer the crises so that they can offer their solution. Will it take another terrorist attack to get Victory Act and Patriot Act 2 passed?
That's a heck of a question to have to answer, but they'll be ready. If there is another attack, they're going to be ready. But right now, I think that they cannot get it passed because they're so